What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of J Sports Network Edition, FBS College Football Breakdown. We'll be breaking down last week's games that happened Friday and Saturday. Now let's get right into this episode. We can first talking about between number 24 Virginia Tech and Virginia. The final score of that game was Virginia pulling off the upset 39-30. The stats from this game, the team stats, Virginia Tech had 483 total yards and Virginia had 492 total yards. Virginia Tech had 311 passing yards, and Virginia also had 311 passing yards. Virginia Tech had 172 rushing yards, and Virginia had 181 rushing yards. The game leaders for this game, Virginia Tech quarterback Hayden Hooker, I think it's Hooker, he went 18-30 with 311 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Virginia's quarterback Bryce Perkins, he went 20-33, 311 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Virginia Tech running back Dwayne McLeese, 16 carries, 83 yards, and 1 touchdown. Virginia's quarterback was the running back as well in this game, 19 carries, 164 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Virginia Tech's wide receiver Trey Turner, 7 receptions for 134 yards and 1 touchdown. And UVA's Hassai Davis, 4 catches, 139 yards, and no touchdowns. On the play of this game, we had Bryce Perkins, as he both did running and passing the ball in this game. And also, Virginia pulled off a great upset as they snapped the 15-game winning streak that Virginia Tech had over them. Let's get right into our next game. Our next game is the Heroes Trophy between number 17 Iowa and Nebraska. Iowa just came out of there with a slim margin of victory by 3 points, 27-24. The team stats are as followed. Total yards for Iowa, 324. Total yards for Nebraska, 284. Iowa had 99 passing yards, and Nebraska had 100 passing yards. Iowa had 225 rushing yards, while Nebraska had 184 rushing yards. And the game leaders for this game were Iowa's quarterback Nate Stanley went 11 of 24 for 99 yards and 1 interception. Nebraska's Adrian Martinez went 10 of 18 with 50 yards and 1 interception as well. Iowa's running back Tyler Goodson, 13 carries, 116 yards and 1 touchdown. Nebraska's running back Dietrich Mills, 24 carries, 94 yards and no touchdowns. Iowa's wide receiver Sam Laporta, 3 catches, 37 yards, no touchdowns. And Nebraska's J.D. Spielman, 3 catches, 34 yards and 1 touchdown. And as this game was a good game here, as we also had this streak was extended for Iowa, as Iowa has now won 5 straight games over Nebraska. And let's get right into our next game is between, this is a very great game. The winner of this game will actually be hosting the championship game for the AAC conference coming up this Saturday. And we'll have a video coming up on about that. But this game right here between number 19 Cincinnati and number 18 Memphis. Number 18 Memphis came out on top with the win 34-24, and extending their streak to 4 wins over Cincinnati. Stats for this game for the team stats. Cincinnati had 407 total yards. Memphis had 432 total yards. Cincinnati had 229 passing yards, while Memphis had 223 passing yards. Cincinnati had 178 rushing yards, while Memphis had 189 rushing yards. The game leaders for this game was Cincinnati's quarterback Ben Bryant with 20 of 32 passing, 229 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Memphis quarterback Brady White, 15 of 26 passing, 233 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Cincinnati's running back Michael Warren had 21 carries, 122 yards, and 1 touchdown. And Memphis running back Keith Gainville, 15 carries, 87 yards, no touchdowns. Cincinnati's wide receiver Alec Pierce, 4 catches, 77 yards, no touchdowns. And Memphis wide receiver Diamante, I think it's Coxey, there it is, Coxey. 6 catches, 145 yards, and 1 touchdown. The player of this game was Brady White, as he has tremendous outpouring of game out there for Memphis. And Memphis comes out on top and will be hosting the AAC Conference Championship this Saturday. Let's get into our next game. Our next game is Boise State versus Colorado State. Now, this game was close, like I said it was going to be. It was a very close game. Colorado State lost this game 31-24, with Boise State now extending their streak to 9 wins in a row over Colorado State. The team stats from this game: Boise State 344 total yards, Colorado State 379 total yards. Boise State had 253 passing yards, while Colorado State had 289 passing yards. The rushing yards for both teams weren't as high, as Boise State had 91 rushing yards and Colorado State had 90 rushing yards. The game leader from this game was Boise State quarterback Jalen Henderson, 26 of 36, 253 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Colorado State's Patrick O'Brien went 26 of 40, 289 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Boise State's running back George, I think it's Honai. I think it might be Honai. I will have. Hopefully, I can get all these stats down in my description, and then y'all can help me out with these pronunciations of the names. And if I'm pronouncing any of y'all guys' names wrong, I really apologize, because some of y'all names I do not know how to pronounce. So I'm doing my best to try to pronounce them as best as I know how. But George Honai, there we go. 18 carries, 42 yards, and no touchdowns. Colorado State, Jalen Thomas, 9 carries, 36 yards, and 1 touchdown. Boise State's Khalid Shakar, 7 catches, 103 yards, no touchdowns. And Colorado State's wide receiver Trey McBride, 9 catches, 101 yards, and 1 touchdown. The player of this game was Jalen Henderson, as he had a very great game out there for Boise State, coming out with the win. Also, it could go to the defense of Boise State as well, because Boise State held on to the win at the end of the game. Now, let's get right here into our next game, which is the 112th Apple Cup between Washington State and Washington. Washington comes on top 31-13, extending their streak to 7 wins in a row over Washington State. The team stats for the game are Washington State 339 total yards, Washington 342 total yards. Washington State had 308 passing yards, while Washington had 244 passing yards. The rushing numbers wasn't as high as I was expecting them to be for this game, but it's not surprising, as we have rivalry games. The rivalries like to continue with passing over rushing in these games. Washington State had 31 rushing yards, and Washington had 98 rushing yards. The game leader for this game, Washington State's quarterback Anthony Gordon, 48 of 62, 308 yards, and 2 interceptions. Washington's quarterback Jacob Eason went 15 of 22, 244 yards, and 1 touchdown. Washington State's running back Max, I'm just going to say his first name because I don't want to pronounce his last name wrong. He had 10 carries, 50 yards, and 1 touchdown. Washington's Salvin Ahmed, 16 carries, 85 yards, and no touchdowns. Washington State's wide receiver Renard Bell, 9 catches, 87 yards, no touchdowns. And Washington's wide receiver Hunter Bryant, 6 catches, 96 yards, and no touchdowns. Our player of this game will be going to Jacob Eason, as he had a very great game out there for the Washington Huskies, as they get the win 31-13. Our next game is between Appalachian State and Troy. At the time, Appalachian State was ranked number 25. Appalachian State won this game 48-13. Very great game for Appalachian State as they get ready to host the Sun Belt Championship game coming up this weekend. Now let's get right here into this. The stats for the teams are Appalachian State 522 total yards. Troy had 339 total yards. Appalachian State had 328 passing yards, while Troy had 304 passing yards. Appalachian State had 194 rushing yards, and Troy did not have a good rushing game rushing attempts this game, as they only had 35 rushing yards total. Our game leaders for this game are Appalachian State Zach Thomas, 28-34, 326 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Troy's quarterback Khalid Baker, 24-41, 281 yards, and 1 touchdown. Appalachian State's DeRoton Evans, 13 carries, 82 yards, 2 touchdowns. Troy's running back DeMontez Woods, 4 carries, 22 yards, no touchdowns. Appalachian State's Thomas, I'm just going to say Thomas, that's the wide receiver Thomas. He had 11 catches, 140 yards, and no touchdowns. And Troy's Reggie Todd, 5 catches, 82 yards, and no touchdowns. Our player of this game is Zach Thomas, as he came out there throwing the ball all across the field, as he gets 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, 326 yards, and 28 of 34 passing attempts. Just missed. Let's get right into our next one. Our next one is USF versus UCF. UCF came out on top 34-7 as they won their third game in a row over USF. USF had 250 total yards, while UCF had 539 total yards. USF had 116 passing yards, and UCF had 307 passing yards. And USF had 134 rushing yards, and UCF had 232 rushing yards. USF's quarterback, Jordan McLeod, was 9 of 21 passing, 116 yards, and 2 interceptions. UCF's quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, he went 23 of 39, 270 yards, and 2 touchdowns. USF, Johnny Ford, 11 carries, 58 yards, and 1 touchdown. And UCF, Adrian Killings Jr., 14 carries, 115 yards, and 1 touchdown. UCF's wide receiver, Kelly Joyner Jr., 2 catches, 30 yards, no touchdowns. And UCF wide receiver, Gabriel Davis, 8 catches, 160 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Our player of this game is Adrian Killings Jr., as he had a very great game out there for UCF with 14 carries, 115 yards, and 1 touchdown. Let's get into our next game, which is the Legends Trophy. The Legends Trophy was won by Notre Dame. Notre Dame was ranked number 16 at this time, as they beat Stanford 45-24, and Notre Dame has won their second straight game over Stanford. Now, this game was very close at one point, but after a while, Notre Dame just ran away with the game, and Stanford could not keep up with the scoring. The stats for this game are: Notre Dame had 445 total yards. Stanford had 394 total yards. Notre Dame had 255 passing yards, and Stanford had 276 passing yards. Notre Dame had 190 rushing yards, and Stanford had 118 rushing yards. Now, our game leaders are Notre Dame's quarterback Ian Book went 17 of 30, 255 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Stanford's quarterback David Mills, 28 of 46, 276 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Notre Dame's running back Tony Jones Jr., 14 carries, 50 yards, no touchdowns. Stanford's quarterback Cameron Scarlett, 13 carries, 43 yards, and 1 touchdown. Notre Dame's Cole Kemet, this is a wide receiver, 5 catches, 77 yards, and no touchdowns. Stanford's Michael Wilson, 10 catches, 96 yards, and 1 touchdown. The player of the game is Ian Book, as he has again set another record for 4 touchdown passes in another game, as he's been doing it for the past couple of games, getting 4 touchdown passes. Let's go right into our next game between number 4 Georgia and Georgia Tech. Georgia came out on top 52-7 as they won their third straight game in a row over Georgia Tech. Stats from this game are: Georgia's 500 total yards, and Georgia Tech had 139 total yards. Georgia had 281 passing yards, and Georgia Tech had 40 passing yards. Very low numbers in the passing department for Georgia Tech. Georgia had 219 rushing yards, while Georgia Tech had 99 rushing yards. Again, very low numbers right here for Georgia Tech, as they did not be able to really do what they wanted to do versus Georgia, as they did not come out with the upset win, which would have been very exciting and interesting to see. But our game leaders from this game are Georgia's quarterback Jake Fromm, 14 of 29, 254 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Georgia will be facing against LSU in the SEC championship game coming up this Saturday. I'm not sure what time, but will that be in the college game day video of J Sports Network edition? Georgia Tech's quarterback James Graham, 5 of 20 passing, terrible passing numbers, 40 yards, but he did have 1 touchdown. Georgia's running back DeAndre Swift, 10 carries, 73 yards, no touchdowns. Georgia Tech's running back Jordan Mason, 16 carries, 37 yards, no touchdowns. Georgia's wide receiver Tyler Simmons, 3 catches, 52 yards, and 1 touchdown. Georgia Tech Malachi Carter, 1 catch, 23 yards, and no touchdowns. Player of this game is Jake Fromm, as he had a very great game out there with 4 touchdown passes, 254 yards. Our next game is the Iron Bowl. As we all know, this is a very great rivalry between Alabama and Auburn. Alabama lost this game to Auburn 48-45 as Alabama missed a game-tying field goal with 2 minutes left to go in the game. Our stats from this game are: Alabama 515 total yards, Auburn 354 total yards. Alabama had 335 passing yards, while Auburn had 173 passing yards. Alabama had 180 rushing yards, and Auburn had 181 rushing yards. Now, our game leaders are Alabama Mac Jones, 26 of 39, 355 yards. 335 total passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Auburn quarterback Bo Nix, 15 of 30, 173 yards and 1 touchdown. Alabama running back Najee Harris, 27 carries, 145 yards and 1 touchdown. Auburn's running back Jatavius Whitlow, 16 carries, 114 yards. Alabama's wide receiver Henry Ruggs III, 6 catches, 99 yards and 1 touchdown. And Auburn's wide receiver Seth Williams, 3 catches, 66 yards and no touchdown. Player of this game is Auburn's defense, as they came out there ready to beat Alabama and they pulled off the upset win, diminishing Alabama's hopes of getting into the college football playoffs this year. Let's get into our next game between number 9 Baylor and Kansas. Baylor comes out on top 61-6 as they win their 10th straight game over Kansas. Our stats from this game are Baylor 507 total yards, Kansas 258 total yards. Baylor had 243 passing yards, while Kansas had 116 passing yards. Baylor had 264 rushing yards, and Kansas had 142 rushing yards. Our game leaders from this game are Baylor's quarterback, Charlie Brewer, 13 of 25, 182 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Kansas quarterback Carter Stanley had 13 of 26 passing, 92 yards, and 3 interceptions. Baylor's running back Jermichael Hasty, 14 carries, 92 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Kansas running back Porky Williams Jr., 22 carries, 97 yards, no touchdowns. Baylor's wide receiver Traquan Thornton, 4 catches, 69 yards, 1 touchdown. And Kansas wide receiver Andrew Parchment, 5 catches, 41 yards, and 1 touchdown. Our player of this game is Jermichael Hasty, as he had a very great game with 3 touchdowns rushing the ball. Our next game is Sunshine Showdown between Florida State and Florida. Florida came out on top 40-17 as they won their 2nd straight game over Florida State. Stats from this game are as follows. Florida State had 250 total yards, while Florida had 467 total yards. Florida State had 181 passing yards, while Florida had 390 passing yards. The rushing numbers weren't as high in this game as I was expecting them to be, as Florida State had 69 rushing yards and Florida had 77. Our game leaders from this game are Florida State's James Blackman, 14 of 23 passing, 150 yards, no touchdowns or interceptions. Florida's quarterback Kyle Trask, 30 of 41, 343 yards and 3 touchdowns. Florida State's running back Cam Akers, 17 carries, 102 yards and 1 touchdown. Florida's running back Emory Jones, 7 carries, 33 yards. Florida State's wide receiver Tamarin Terry, 7 catches, 131 yards, and Florida's Kadarius Toney, 4 catches, 65 yards, no touchdown. Our player of this game is Kyle Trask, as he went 30 of 41 passing, 343 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Our next game is the game between number 1 Ohio State and number 13 Michigan. Ohio State comes out on top 56-27 as they win the 8th straight game over Michigan. Stats from this game are as follows. Ohio State 577 total yards, Michigan 396 total yards. Ohio State had 313 passing yards, while Michigan had 305 passing yards. Ohio State had 265 rushing yards, and Michigan only had 91 rushing yards, which is a very low number, can normally be up in the hundreds. But the game leaders from this game are Ohio State's Justin Fields, 14 of 25 passing, 302 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Michigan's quarterback Shea Patterson went 18 of 43, 305 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Ohio State's running back J.K. Dobbins, 31 carries, 211 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Michigan's running back Hassan Haskins, 12 carries, 78 yards, and 1 touchdown. Ohio State's wide receiver Garrett Wilson, 3 catches, 118 yards, and 1 touchdown. And Michigan's wide receiver Ronnie Bell, 6 catches, 78 yards, no touchdown. Now, our players in this game are Justin Fields and J.K. Dobbins, and both of them combined for a total of 8 touchdowns. Now, let's go into our next game is the Palmetto Bowl between number 3 Clemson and South Carolina. Clemson came on top 38-3 with their 6th straight win over South Carolina. The team stats are as follows. Clemson, 527 total yards. South Carolina, 174 total yards. Clemson had 316 passing yards, while South Carolina had 105 passing yards. Clemson had 211 rushing yards, while sadly South Carolina did not have a high number up in the rushing department, as they only had 69 rushing yards. Our game leaders are quarterback for Clemson, Trevor Lawrence, 26 of 36, 295 yards and 3 touchdowns. South Carolina's quarterback, Ryan, I'm just going to say his first name, kind of not pronounce his last name, 16 of 27, 105 yards, 1 interception. Clemson's quarterback was the running back as well in this game, as he had 8 carries, 66 yards. South Carolina's running back, Tavian Feaster, 12 carries, 47 yards, no touchdowns. Clemson's wide receiver, Justin Ross, 9 catches, 111 yards, 1 touchdown. South Carolina, Shi Smith, 5 catches, 40 yards, no touchdowns. Our player of this game is Trevor Lawrence, as he had 3 total touchdowns in this game. Our next game is the Governor's Cup between Louisville and Kentucky. Kentucky won their second straight game over Louisville as they win 45-13. Our stats are as follows. Louisville had 318 total yards, while Kentucky had 521 total yards. Louisville had 109 passing yards. Surprisingly, Kentucky only had 9 passing yards, which I'm still, that's very mind-boggling, as I have no clue how that's even possible. But Louisville had 209 rushing yards, while Kentucky ran that ball with will, 517 rushing yards. Our game leaders for this game are Louisville's Michael Cunningham, 6 of 11, 78 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Kentucky, Lynn Borden Jr., 1 of 2 passing and 4 yards. Louisville's running back, Javion Hawkins, 22 carries, 142 yards, 1 touchdown. Kentucky's quarterback was a running back in this game, Lynn Borden Jr., 22 carries, 284 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Louisville's wide receiver, Tutu Otwell, 4 catches, 57 yards, 1 touchdown. And Kentucky wide receiver Clinvin Thomas Jr., 1 catch and 4 yards. Our player of this game is Lynn Borden Jr., as he had a very great game in the rushing department with 4 total touchdowns. Our next game between Indiana and Purdue, which went to 2 overtimes, and the streak has been snapped by Indiana. Indiana now has won their first game against Purdue, as Purdue has actually won the last 2 games. Final score 44-41. With a game-winning field goal. Stats from this game are as follows. Indiana 522 total yards, Purdue 589 total yards. Indiana had 337 passing yards, while Purdue had 408 passing yards. Indiana had 185 rushing yards, while Purdue had 181 rushing yards. Our game leaders are Indiana's quarterback Peyton Ramsey, 22 of 39, 337 yards and 3 touchdowns. Purdue, Aiden O'Connell, 28 of 49, 408 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Indiana's running back, Samson James, 22 carries, 118 yards, and 1 touchdown. Purdue running back, Xander Harvington, I might pronounce that wrong, I'm sorry if I do, 23 carries, 164 yards, 2 touchdowns. Indiana's wide receiver, Philon, I'm just going to say it, Philon, I don't know how to pronounce it. 8 catches, 138 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And Purdue's wide receiver, Brycey Hopkins, 8 catches, 142 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Now, the players of this game are this. Both the offense and the defense showed up for Indiana in this game as they get the win over Purdue. Let's go ahead and try our next game. Is the Paul Bunyan's Act between Wisconsin and Minnesota. Minnesota lost the game 38-17. Stats from this game are as follows. Wisconsin 453 total yards, Minnesota 372 total yards, Wisconsin 280 passing yards, while Minnesota had 296 passing yards. Wisconsin had 173 rushing yards, and Minnesota had a low number in rushing department, 76 rushing yards total. Our game leaders are Wisconsin's quarterback Jake Cohen, 15 of 22, 280 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Minnesota's quarterback Tanner Morgan, 20-37, 296 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Wisconsin Jonathan Taylor had 18 carries, 76 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And Minnesota's Muhammad Abraham, 5 carries, 39 yards. Wisconsin's Quintez, the wide receiver, 5 catches, 114 yards, and 1 touchdown. And Minnesota wide receiver Rashad Bateman, 6 catches, 447 yards, and 1 touchdown. Wisconsin will be facing against number 1 team in the nation, Ohio State Buckeyes, in a Big Ten championship game coming up this Saturday. Player of this game is Jonathan Taylor, that he had 2 touchdowns, but not a high rushing numbers for him as he normally has in previous games. Our next game between Texas A&M and LSU. Last year, Texas A&M and LSU went to 7 overtime with Texas A&M coming out with the upset win. But this time, things went the other way as LSU wins 50-7. Stats from this game are Texas A&M 169 total yards and LSU 553 total yards. Texas A&M had 97 passing yards, while LSU had 425 passing yards. Texas A&M had a low number in the rushing department, 72 rushing yards. LSU had 128 rushing yards. Our game leaders from this game are Texas A&M quarterback Kellen Mond, 10 of 30, 92 yards, 3 interceptions. LSU's quarterback Joe Burrow, 23 of 32, passing, 352 yards, 3 touchdowns. Texas A&M running back Isaiah Spiller, 11 carries, 66 yards, and 1 touchdown. LSU Clyde Edwards Hurry, I think I might be pronouncing that wrong. I'm just going to say Clyde. Clyde, they were running back. He had 18 carries, 87 yards, and 1 touchdown. And Texas A&M, Isaiah Spiller, 3 catches, 45 yards. He's also the running back. LSU, Jamar Chase, 7 catches, 197 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Player this game, excuse me, is Joe Burrow, as he had 3 touchdowns, 252 yards in this game. Our next game is Bedlam between number 7 Oklahoma and number 21 Oklahoma State. Oklahoma wins 34-16, and they won their 5th straight game in a row. The stats from this game are as follows. Oklahoma had 450 total yards, while Oklahoma State had 335 total yards. Oklahoma had 167 passing yards. Oklahoma State had 207 passing yards. Oklahoma had 283 rushing yards, and Oklahoma State had 128 rushing yards. Our game leaders are as follows. Oklahoma, Jalen Hurts had 13 of 16, 163 yards and 1 touchdown. Oklahoma State, Drew Brown, 22 of 32, 207 yards and 1 interception. Oklahoma's Kennedy Brooks with 22 carries, 160 yards and 1 touchdown. Oklahoma State, Chabai Hubbard, 24 carries, 104 yards and 1 touchdown. Oklahoma CeeDee Lamb, 4 catches and 36 yards as the wide receiver. And Oklahoma State, Braden Johnson, 4 catches, 77 yards, and no touchdowns. Our player of this game is Kennedy Brooks, as he went 22 carries for 160 yards and 1 touchdown. Our next game was a defensive game between BYU and San Diego State. Now, San Diego State upset BYU. Now, okay, y'all may say, okay, well, San Diego State has a better record than BYU. Well, listen to this. BYU actually had beat San Diego State, I believe it was either 5 or 6 times in a row. San Diego State pulls off that upset, snapping that streak, and won 13-3. Stats from this game are BYU 416 total yards. San Diego State had 269 total yards. BYU had 338 passing yards, while San Diego State had 172 passing yards. Rushing numbers weren't that high as I was expecting them to be. BYU 78 rushing yards, San Diego State 97 rushing yards. Our game leaders are as follows. BYU, Zach Wilson, quarterback for BYU, 31 of 53, 316 yards and 2 interceptions. San Diego State's quarterback, Carson Baker, 19 of 24, 172 yards and 1 touchdown. BYU's quarterback was also the running back in this game, 8 carries, 29 yards, and we're actually going to bring it to the end of this episode. If you guys enjoyed, if you did, please leave a like and comment and subscribe, and I will see you next episode. Also, I will put the final thing for BYU and them in the description below. Have a great day.